Hello everybody! Excuse me if I look like I just woke up. That's because I did, and that's because we got a lot to do today, okay? This week I am going to be doing the swapping my screen time for reading time challenge, and I'm excited, but I'm nervous because I have only ever done this once and it was for one day. I've never done a full week. I'm very nervous because I've been in like the worst reading slump of all time this year. It's July now and I've read 12 books all year, which is like still a decent amount, but compared to my last 2 years when I read like 30 and 50, I think this like it's not good for me, okay? I'm unhappy with where I am as a reader right now, and there's a lot I want to read. So I decided we'll do this because my screen time has been horrendous recently, especially last week. So I'm very nervous for the numbers that I'm about to have to read for, the hours I'm about to have to read for. I'm very scared. I am also on a book buying ban until I finish my physical TBR, which is about 40-ish books. And last week I made a video deciding which books I'm going to be reading for the rest of July, so you can check that out over here. But these are the books that we are going to be focusing on this week. I don't know how much I can realistically read in a week with the hours that I'm about to put in, but we'll see. First is Persuasion by Jane Austen, and that's just because I'm almost done with it, so I thought that would be a good one to get out of the way, you know, cross another one off the list. Then we have Dead Souls. I really don't even know what this book is about. It's just like one of the first times I went to a used bookstore, I just found it laying around, and I think it was like, yeah, $1. So I was like, oh, so fun, and just bought it. So hopefully it's good. And then we have The Island of Missing Trees. This one I'm nervous for. I started it already and it seems quite heavy. I think it focuses on grief, and yeah, so that's why I've been pushing this one off. I've heard great things about it, but I'm very nervous. Then we have The Maidens. I'm very excited for this one. It like sounds right up my alley, and I haven't read a like dark academia murder mystery type of book in a while. I think this is that. And the last book I have is Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. I'm excited to cross this one off the list because this has been on my physical and like digital TBR for years. I think since my senior year of high school, and I just like have never gotten around to reading it because I don't crave nonfiction all that often. So but yeah, let's see how many hours we have to read for today. So today we're starting off easy with a whopping 3 hours and 49 minutes. And if you think that's bad, wait until tomorrow and Wednesday. Wednesday is terrifying. I'm very scared. But yeah, it's just gonna get worse as the week goes on. Let's just get into it. We got almost 4 hours of reading to do. Ended up reading about like 45 minutes this morning, which wasn't bad, considering I did it like consistently straight throughout. But I was feeling a bit sluggish now, so I've decided to just walk on the treadmill and read some more. You know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone because it's way too hot to go outside for a walk. Probably update again once I'm finished with Persuasion because I have about 50 pages left or so. I just finished Persuasion. I still have about an hour left on the clock for today, so I'm gonna start another book. But this was so good, guys. I've never read it before. It's now the 3rd Jane Austen novel I've read. Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and I don't think it's my favorite. Like, it's good, but it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just not my favorite. Like, Pride and Prejudice is iconic. Emma is so fun. And this, like, I think this one's for my second chance romance girlies, which I've never really been a fan of, but recently like I've really been enjoying it more. But it was good. Jane Austen really knows how to write a letter. Like that letter that Captain Wentworth wrote for her at the end had me all giddy. Like even though I knew what was coming because I've seen the movie before, which the 2022 adaptation is a crime against humanity. Who let that happen? Anyway, off topic, but that letter was very good. Loved it. Next, not like right now, but the next Jane Austen novel I want to read is Sense and Sensibility, because I just like last month I watched the 1995 adaptation of it. It was so good. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. Now it's time to decide which book to read next. I'm leaning towards Dead Souls because it's tiny, but also I don't want to read it, and I want to like, I feel like if I get this out of the way, then I can read like The Maidens or The Island of Missing Trees as like a treat. So yeah, I'm feeling that. So we're gonna read this for an hour today, and then I'll touch back in with you guys tomorrow when I tell you how much we have to read then. It's a big number. I'm scared. Good morning, everyone. So last night I read about 70 pages of Dead Souls, and I was successful for reading for the whole 3 hours and 49 minutes. This book is surprisingly very easy to get into. I'm a little confused as to where it's gonna go, but basically right now this guy is going around this town and asking like the landowners if they will sell him dead serfs, and that's literally it. I don't know what he wants to do with them, but like when he buys them, he's only buying the ones that were marked as alive on the last census, so it's feeling like tax fraud or something. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Let's see how much we have to read for today. So as you see, it says 8 hours and 44 minutes for today, but last week I did read a book on my phone, and as you can see on Tuesday I read for 4 hours and 35 minutes. So I'm making the executive decision to subtract the reading time I had on my phone. I know that counts as screen time, but it's different, you know, and it's not like I'm always reading on my phone. I only read a book on my phone like maybe once a year. So 4 hours and 9 minutes, so just a little bit more than yesterday, but you know what, that's doable. We can do that. Day 2 has been a fail. It's almost midnight and I only managed to read 3 hours instead of the 4 hours and 9 minutes that I had for today. It was just really hard today because I had a couple of other commitments that I actually had to get to. And yeah, it's very difficult to sit down and read for long periods of time in my house. I feel like someone always needs me. Since it's almost midnight and I can't hit my required number of hours, I thought I would just go to sleep and wake up earlier tomorrow, so I have a couple hours in the morning before everybody else wakes up to just do. I am a little over halfway done with the book though. Not bad. Pretty easy read, especially for a Russian novel. Like it's not like Crime and Punishment where every character has 15 different nicknames and you have no idea who's who. But I don't really know where the story is going. Apparently this is like a satire, but it's like not bad. Like I think it's worth a read, maybe, if you're into this sort of thing. Morning friends, it is Wednesday. Time for another beautiful day of reading. I am gonna be honest, the first 2 days were fine. This was easy, but being a mood reader is a curse on book lovers. Because now like today's feeling like a struggle already. Like I'm thinking about reading and I wanna read, but I don't want to read, so it's gonna be tough. Today we have a longer reading schedule than yesterday. We have to read for 5 hours and 31 minutes. I think I did the math right on that. So or is it 4 hours and 11? No, oh my god, why did I think it was 9 hours on rigid? No, so the original was 11 hours, right? And 4 hours and 21 minutes of that was from reading on my phone, so we're not counting that. So 11 minus 4 is 7. minus 21 would be 39. So 6 hours and 39 minutes. My God, we have a very long day ahead of us. I was originally thinking, because I was off by about an hour, I think, last night. So I was thinking I might add that hour on today, just so I can say I read that fully without, and not have to say I failed. But now that I know I have 6 hours and 39 minutes to read, I don't know if I can do that. So maybe not. Yeah, we're just gonna count yesterday as a fail and start all over today. Oh my God, I finally finished my reading time for today. I finished Dead Souls and then I started Quiet. Didn't film anymore though because my camera died and I needed to get it done. I will talk more about Quiet tomorrow, but Dead Souls, it was okay. It kept me entertained while I was reading it, but the end kind of lost me. Like, there was like 10 pages, I think, where the author just kept going and going. I was like, okay, like, we get it. Like, I think we're good now. Yeah, I think I'd give it like 2 stars because it did keep me entertained while I was reading it, but it wasn't anything revolutionary for me. I did like that the narrator like addressed the reader. I don't know, I love when books do that. And then the other thing is, I think this would be a good like beginner Russian translation to read for anyone who's never read Russian translation before. Like, it was very easy to digest and understand what was going on. That's all I really have to say about this one. Good morning. It is day 4 of this insane challenge I put myself into that has me really worried because of my screen time. Like, these numbers are insane, guys. And today is the worst one. I know I say that every day, but today's like actually like after this it's downhill. Thank God. But we are going to be reading for 9 hours and 32 minutes today. I'm not even saying anything else. Like, that's such a big number. We're just gonna go. I don't want to say too much on this book before I've read like the whole thing, but I already find it so fascinating because it really is like about like a study into introvert versus extrovert. Specifically, it focuses on the US for the most part, which, as someone who resides in the US, lives, works, does everything in the US, I find it really fascinating because it is true that I feel like this country specifically and society in general value extroversion higher. And I remember seeing this like with when I first got into college and like those Instagram accounts that everyone introduces themselves on. Everyone, and I mean everyone, was pretending to be an extrovert. They, like, myself included, love hanging out, love going places, I'm an extrovert, blah 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 blah. And yeah, so I'm really excited to see where this goes and exactly what direction it takes this conversation in. Okay, so I have read, let me open this, 3 hours and 20 minutes so far. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good book. I'm kind of surprised. I think I've realized that I always like want to read self-help books because they like fall into that sphere of like psychology, almost more like pseudo-psychology, let's be real. But then when I read them, I'm like, this is trash. And I'm like, a lot of these authors need help to like make their egos a little bit smaller, you know? But this like falls more into, I want to say it's like right in between psychology books and self-help books, because it focuses mostly on the research, on the data, with some anecdotal experience as well. And the point of the book doesn't really seem to be like, this is why being an introvert is good and here's how you should make yourself an introvert. Rather, it's kind of focusing on the fact that as a society we do really prioritize extroverts and we value extroverts on at a higher level than introverts. And it kind of lists reasons why maybe that's not always the best, and we should try to kind of like balance it out more than like being like introverts good, extroverts bad, you know? So yeah, I might make another coffee and continue reading. Let's see. I was thinking about sitting outside to read, but every time I do, there's bugs and it's hot and there's noises and it distracts me, so I'll just enjoy this beautiful view of the outdoors instead. So I have just finished Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Thinking. It actually took me 8 hours and 28 minutes, which means that I have a little bit more than an hour left to read for today, which is honestly longer than I thought it would take me because this book isn't very long. It is though very dense, you know, a lot of research in here, so I guess that makes sense. I love this book. I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 out of 5. The only like flaws that it had for me was like there was a couple points that I didn't agree with, very few minor points. There were sometimes in the writing, it felt like she would like introduce an anecdote almost out of nowhere and then move on from it really quick, so it like messed up my reading flow quite a bit. Lastly, there were some things I just felt like she repeated a couple too many times, which I think is more like a personal problem for me, because like as I was a psych major, so a lot of the stuff she touched on I was familiar with, some of the research or like concepts in general, so while it might have seemed repetitive and redundant to me, it might have been somebody else might like actually need those multiple examples to really understand the concept. So but yeah, honestly I think this is a really good book. I love how it's not necessarily a self-help book but more psychology, and it's like never in this book is she really trying to get you to change anything about yourself. Rather, it's more about getting to understand yourself more and getting to understand the people around you more, and learning how to use your personality traits and the strengths that you have with them to your benefit, you know, to your advantage. This was really good. Her writing style is amazing. Like, she has a really nice voice for nonfiction that's not a memoir. Usually with these types of books, really like straightforward, and you wouldn't necessarily really think about the writing style or like characterize it as beautiful, but she got a mighty pen. She got a mighty pen. So that was very fun. Okay, so we have an hour left for today, and my choice for next book is The Maidens or The Island of Missing Trees. And I think I'm gonna go with The Maidens just because I'm pretty sure that The Island of Missing Trees touches more on like familial history and culture, and that's a level of sadness that I can't deal with right now, versus The Maidens. I don't know anything about it, but I'm pretty sure it's like more like dark academia, murder mystery kind of thing, which that's like more distance, you know, like I'm more distanced from the event, and it's a lot easier than like this that like brings in culture. And I can't, family oriented books I can't do, guys. I can't. This will be for later, maybe. I might not even read that this month. I might chicken out, but we'll see. So I'm gonna go read this for the rest of tonight, just a little over an hour. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Today we have to read for 6 hours and 2 minutes. I've already read for about like 30 minutes today. I just picked up the book like right when I woke up and read a little bit before I went to watch Oppenheimer, which was insane. I drove 40 minutes, off topic, but I drove 40 minutes to this one theater just so I could see it in IMAX on the 70mm screen, and it was so worth it because I needed that entire 40-minute drive back to decompress. It was insane. Anyway, now I'm back. I thought I would like talk a little bit about this book. since I didn't last night, it's a really easy read. Like, I've only read for 90 minutes and I'm this far in already, which is 92 pages. That's like a page a minute, which is insane for me. I love how I started this last night because I was like, oh, the Island of Missing Trees would be too like difficult for me. This had like 4 deaths within the first 60 pages, like 4 different people. It explained 4 different people's deaths and I was crying so bad because they were brutal. They were upsetting, especially this one. The main character is a therapist, which I'm very nervous for. I love, as a psych major, you know, I love reading about people within the psych field. I say psych major like I haven't graduated, but you know, I'm unemployed, so we still psych major, who cares? But I'm always so terrified when it's in literature, because I don't know if you've noticed within entertainment, within any form of media, but a lot of the time, especially in the past, psychologists tend to be the villains of the story in one way or another. It's a really fascinating pattern which I hadn't even been aware of before I was introduced to it in one of my classes my sophomore year of college, but it's there, and if you look for it, it's very obvious. So I'm nervous about that. I hope they don't make psychology the villain of this book. It seems, I don't think it will, because it feels, I don't know how to explain this, but I feel like it's gonna be a good book, but at the same time it feels like it's role-playing a good book, which makes no sense. I don't know how to explain it. It's like every line that I'm reading, I'm like aware that it's a line that was written for a book, you know, which normally does not happen when I'm reading fiction. Like, I'm in the story, but I don't know, it's like something about the way it's written. I'm like, oh, this is like this type of story. That makes no sense, but it's taking me out of story basically, which isn't very fun, but hopefully it gets better as I keep reading. I have no idea where this book is gonna go, but genuinely speechless. I literally just finished. It took me 4 hours. I've read for 4 hours and 30 minutes today, which means this book in total took me about 5 hours and 30 minutes. I think that's like one of the fastest books I have ever read. And it's just because, first of all, the chapters are really short. Most of them are like 4 pages max, so really easy to flip through, and it's hard to stop because, like, you know, it's like murder mystery, so you want to know what's happening next. Guys, when I tell you I feel physically sick, I'm trying to, like, I had a couple thoughts that I wanted to share with you guys before the final major plot twist, and after that it's like every cell in my brain just exploded. Really, I can't even think about the ending because I want to cry. Like, it's so basically, this is really easy to read. Like, physically it's easy to get through because it's so interesting and so intriguing, and you want to know what happens next, so you just keep flipping the pages. So I think anyone who is like interested in murder mysteries, wants to get back into reading, this could be a really like good one to start with. But please check content warnings. I went into this blind because I'm an idiot, and I'm gonna continue making that mistake in the future. Like, I never learn from my mistakes. I think this is a book that a lot of people would enjoy because I feel like most people enjoy murder mysteries, and the plot twist at the end was insane. What's funny is before that major plot twist, I felt like all of the plot twists before that were predictable. Like, I had predicted every single one before that. The thing I hated about the main character is she would somehow manage to be both so smart and so oblivious at the same time, and I was like, God, why is she like this? And then this major plot twist comes, and it's like, oh, she's a lot more oblivious than we even realized. So, I know his first book is called The Silent Patient, and there was like a little nod to it in this book, which was really interesting. I was afraid it was like gonna spoil it, but I don't think it did. I think it was just like, hey, like, you know, a nod for people who read that first book, so I can't wait to read that. What else was I saying? Like, my thoughts are all over. Anything else? I think I touched on all the major points. Like, I literally want to cry. I know I'm like, I have a nervous laugh, as you can see, because I literally want to throw up when I think about it for too long. Oh my god. Oh, the other thing is, this is like, it has references to like Greek mythology. You don't need to be completely familiar with the Greek mythology to get the book or like the book. I know very basic things. Everything I know about Greek mythology is from like Percy Jackson intro classical literature classes in college, so you don't need it. But I think people who like Greek mythologies will enjoy this as well. I technically still have like an hour and a half left on my screen time for today, my reading time for today, but I'm gonna call it a day for this one because I know I'm not gonna be able to absorb anything else after this. Like, I need to just lay in bed and maybe not. The fact reading this and watching Oppenheimer in one day, like, it's a lot of wanting to throw up. Like, that was a lot for me. Okay, I realized I just woke up. Well, I didn't just wake up, but it's the next day, obviously. And I realized I was like so out of it last night when I was filming my ending to The Maidens. And I feel like I made it out to be like the last plot twist was like super shocking, but I don't want to give spoilers away. Basically what I'm gonna say is it was half shocking, half not. Part of me suspected from like the first postcard that we found, I guessed who the killer was, but what I didn't guess is why they did that. I thought it was, I'm just gonna leave it there. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. I'll probably write a book review for this on my Instagram at Prada Reads, and I will include like spoiler warnings there, so you don't read the part with the spoiler warning. Go more into depth about what I'm trying to say here. But for today, we have to read for 3 hours and 30 minutes exactly, I think, maybe 3 hours and 32 minutes. And I've already read for about like 20 minutes. So the one like issue I did have with this, and I think it's just like evident that it was a male author, is the relationships between men and women. There was this one part towards the end of the book where Mariana, Zoe, and Clarissa are like together, and they're basically like plotting what's gonna happen and how they should move forward with their own private investigation. And I was like really excited for that part because it made it seem like this group of women who don't trust anybody else, but they have each other, and they're gonna like figure this out together. But the other part that I didn't like about the book is like how Mariana was constantly surrounded by men, like whether it was Julian or Fosca or Fred or whoever else. It was like so her story was like, her and all the other women, like their stories were so centered around men. And like even the and I think like I was wondering, like there was something about it that was bugging me from the beginning like that, and I now realize it's like a male author, like of course he'd write something like that. But yeah, the more I think about it, I gave this book 5 stars last night, but the more I think about it, I think that's gonna drop to like a 3.5, because for me like a 3-star book is like entertaining, it kept me interested, but it's not necessarily like the best book. And I think a 5-star is too high, definitely way too high. But a 3.5 is like, it was interesting, it kept me interested. That I think that plot twist as the end is what gives it that 1/2 star for me. But besides that, like there was a lot of, the more I think about it, I'm like, did I like that book? Like, you know, as a whole, if you take out that plot twist, did I enjoy it as much? And it's always harder for me to rate dark academia books because I love this like genre so much, and like the whole aesthetic where it's like criticizing and romanticizing academia at the same time. I think it's so interesting, and that line between criticism and romanticization is very, very thin. So I think it's fascinating how some authors toe that line and how others try to. So yeah, it's always hard for me to rate books like that. It's something I need to work on though, because it is like my favorite subgenre. I don't think you can really consider Dark Academia a genre, more like an aesthetic with it. So I've read for about 2 hours today, which means I have about an hour and a half left. I am on page 110, but I thought I would like share my thoughts on this right now before the night, before I turn it off, because I just want to, that was really sassy, but I just want to read for the rest of the night and not like try and think of what I want to say to the camera, you know? But basically this book is really good. It's a really slow start in my opinion. I think for the first like 50 to 60 pages I was kind of like, where is this going? What are we doing? Because the format is a bit weird. Alternates between the perspective of the fig tree that's growing in this family's backyard to like more like the first person focusing on the main character Ada or her dad, and yeah, and then it also has certain chapters that go back in time to when Ada's parents first met. It's really beautiful. A big part of this seems to be about like love and loss, and especially grief. Basically Ada's parents are both from Cyprus, but her dad is Greek Cypriot and her mom is Turkish Cypriot, and I am not familiar with the history there, but from this book it seems that the two are not exactly on good terms with one another. When they first met as teenagers, they were running around and hiding their relationship, and I think this book is just gonna go through both like their relationship developing as well as in the moment, because in the present the mom has died, and it seems to be like just that dealing with that grief from both the dad's perspective as a husband as well as the daughter's perspective as a daughter, and it's a lot. I've been wanting to cry a lot, but I'm like because I know once I start crying it's not gonna stop with this book. At the center of this story is this fig tree that is now in their backyard in London, which is where they are. The dad got the tree, actually cut a branch of the tree off of the tree that was in the tavern where him and his wife like would meet in secret, and so the tree really is like the center of the story, and I think like it's just so beautifully written, especially the chapters from the perspective of the tree. Like the personification is just crazy to me, like the descriptions of plants and trees and like the way that they work is so interesting, and it's very beautiful. One thing I really like about it is that the chapters are pretty short. I think after you get at the beginning they're a little longer, but like after the first couple chapters I think each chapter is like 3 or 4 pages at mostly, which I really enjoy. But I wouldn't say this is a fast read like The Maidens was. With this one the writing is so lyrical that it definitely like slows you down and you want to like process every single word individually as well as a part of the whole. Yeah, I'm really liking this. I have no idea where it's gonna go though, so I have to be completely honest with you guys. I could just pretend like today's the next day after yesterday's last clip, but it's not. I didn't read at all yesterday, and that's because I got my wisdom teeth taken out. I thought that I would still be able to read afterwards, because like I was fine, like the anesthesia wore off pretty soon, I wasn't in any pain, but I ended up having to like keep my head elevated, and I just like mentally was like not there. I couldn't read, so I decided to not read at all yesterday, and we're doing the last day of my screen time today, and for that we will be reading for 5 hours and 9 minutes. I've already read for about 20 minutes today, so we're just gonna go and also I forgot to mention, but I did look up a like brief historical overview of Cyprus and the like I guess political problems you could say that this book is about. This is gonna be a very dumbed down explanation of it, but basically Cyprus has always been a island with a lot of different rulers, Here it says there's been Assyrian, Egyptian, Roman, Persian, Crusaders, and Turks who've ruled the island, specifically as part of the Ottoman Empire until the 1800s. And like a really big distinction is that it's never been seen as a Cypriot nation because of the ethnic and religious differences of all the different people that live there. And interestingly enough, even though Greek and Turkish Cypriots have been coexisting on the island for centuries, there was basically no intermarriages or commercial partnerships for a long time. And it seems that tensions like really rose in the 1960s, and that is kind of like where this book starts off, because I think so far the earliest I've seen is like it takes part in 1968, 1974, 1980s, and then the present day is the late 2010s. So again, a very brief overview that was very simplified and definitely doesn't take into account everything that went on, but that gave me just a little bit of context to where I can organize the events of the book in my head and follow along a little bit. Okay, wow. Let's see if I can get through this without crying. This book is so beautiful. I think that anyone who is a fan of words and the way that we can utilize them to create such beautiful things will love this, because it is so beautiful. The writing, oh, it just tugs at every string in my body. And okay, can I just say that this was an ambitious task. I mean, this is basically going through is the story of like 2 generations of immigrants living through a time of war, dealing with that, the grief, everything that comes with being an immigrant. Just read it, please read it, guys, please read it. There was so much in this book, and it is all addressed so amazingly. The author took on such a huge task and was able to develop every single part of it perfectly. Oh, I want to cry so bad. The last chapter killed me. It was really slow to me at first because the first couple chapters, the format is different than what I'm used to, so it was weird and I couldn't get used to it at first. But basically it's because some chapters are from the perspective of this fig tree, while some chapters are in the present, going through the story of Ada and her family right now, and then some chapters are in the past when her parents met, and their childhood, basically what they went through at that time of war. And wow, I wish I could articulate just how I feel about this book. But specifically the chapters that were from the perspective of the fig tree were so beautiful. Were basically it gave me like a newfound love and appreciation and respect for nature. The way that you were really in the mind of the tree, in the mind of nature, and learning about all these different animals and plants and how things are done within nature. And different animals would come to the tree and they'd interact and get stories from one another, and oh, it was just so beautiful. I'm already I can't wait to reread this. It's a precious one. I don't want to let go. Everybody read this, please read this. And another thing is I found fascinating is the comparison throughout the book of human suffering with trees and with nature, and trees specifically, how trees tend to hold on to the pain of generations ago. You know, their offspring is aware of the things that they've gone through, and how the comparison to like immigrant families who have gone through traumatic things such as living through a war, and how that is passed on through generations and how different generations deal with that, and heartbreaking and beautiful. So that marks the end of my swapping my screen time for reading time challenge, and these are all the books that I finished in this week. I'm pretty impressed, not gonna lie. 5 books. I mean, like, with the amount that my screen time was, I expected to finish all of these, but still, that's a lot considering before this challenge I think I read like 13 books up until July. So takeaways, my biggest takeaway, okay, so the first 2 days of this challenge I was really into it. And it even like it got me out of my reading slump. Like day 3 I woke up and I wanted to read, but as I got to the days that were longer reading times, it didn't really want to read anymore, and towards the end it felt like I was getting back into a reading slump. Thankfully I saved The Island of Missing Trees for last, because I feel like that really helped me. Like that was just such a beautiful book. I was like, whoa, like I love reading, I love books, I need to consume every book there is now again. So it was beautiful, loved it. If you're someone who's thinking about doing this challenge for like as a way to help yourself get out of a reading slump, I recommend only doing like a day or 2, and don't do like screen times up higher than like 5 hours, you know, because after that I think you get exhausted, you know, and especially if you have a lot to do, like that's really impossible to get done. So yeah, the other thing I noticed is, what I realized is I pick up my book a lot of times throughout the day. Like there's a lot of different times a day that I want to read, but I have a hard time reading for extended periods of time. Like at most days I was reading, like I wanted to only read like 15 or 20 minutes at a time, and then I would get tired and want to put my book down, and that is like obviously a result of, that is obviously like a consequence of lower attention spans with how much time I spend on social media. So that's definitely something I want to work on in the future. Yeah, it was hard for me to like read for hours on end, even though when I did do it, that was so fulfilling and satisfying, and I enjoyed doing it, you know. It's just hard to get myself to do that. All in all, I'm glad I gave this challenge a try. I don't think I will be doing the week-long challenge ever again, but you know, maybe like a 1 or 2 day thing. We'll see.